evening. Welcome to the news at 4 on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ogbebo. Now the news. The Abia state government has dismissed 6 civil servants from the Ministry of Justice after uncovering their involvement in a salary padding scheme. A statement from the chairman of the State Civil Service Commission, Pastor Eno Jerieze, listed those affected as a principal accountant, a senior accountant, and a chief executive officer, accounts. Others are an assistant chief executive officer, accounts, a principal executive officer, accounts, and a senior executive officer, general duties. According to the statement, the investigation revealed that they knowingly benefited from irregular salary payments. However, one officer earlier investigated, Mrs. Chioma Favor Madu, was cleared of wrongdoing after she promptly reported and corrected an overpayment. Governor Les Oti has also ordered a separate probe into the activities of the State Salary Committee following suspicions of complicity in the fraud. Pastor Eze confirmed that indicted officers will be handed over to law enforcement agencies for prosecution, stressing the administration's commitment to transparency and zero tolerance for corruption. In other development, the Nigerian Bar Association (NBA) has taken the Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun to court over the newly introduced tinted glass permit policy. The NBA, acting through its section on public interest and development law (SPIDE), argues that the policy is unlawful and violates citizens' fundamental rights. At this National Executive Council meeting in Enugu, the association resolved to oppose the regulation which mandates motorists to obtain annual permits for tinted glasses through a digital portal operated by a private vendor. NBA officials say there is no evidence that the revenues generated are remitted into the Federation account. Instead, payments are reportedly directed to a private account belonging to Parkway Projects. The association further alleged that even before enforcement begins, citizens have faced harassment and extortion at police checkpoints in the name of the policy. It also questioned the legal foundations of the directive, pointing out that it appears to rely on the Motor Tinted Glass Prohibition Act, a military decree from 1991, which it argues may not pass constitutional tests in today's democratic setting. The suit, filed on September 2 at the Federal High Court in Abuja, is marked FHC/ABJ/CS/182/2025. The NBA urged the police to suspend enforcement of the policy pending the outcome of the case. The matter is yet to be assigned to a judge. Fuel scarcity may soon hit the country as the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers (NUPENG) has threatened to down tools from Monday, September 8th, over its ongoing face-off with the Dangote refinery. In a statement jointly signed by the union's president, Comrade Williams Akbureha, and General Secretary Comrade Afolabi Olawale, NUPENG accused the management of Dangote refinery of anti-labor practices. The union expressed outrage over Chairman Aliko Dangote's insistence that drivers recruited to operate the refinery's 10,000 compressed natural gas trucks will not be allowed to join any trade union. NUPENG described this stance as a violation of the Nigerian Constitution and international labor conventions, saying workers cannot be forced to give up their right to freedom of association. It further alleged that Dangote and his cousin, Sayu Dantata of MROS, had already begun recruiting drivers under the condition that they must sign undertakings not to belong to any oil and gas union. The union warned that the move amounts to enslavement of workers and economic sabotage, stressing that it has supported the refinery in good faith during its construction and commissioning. With talks between both parties collapsing, NUPENG is now directing its petroleum tanker drivers branch to shun all depot and stop loading petroleum products from Monday. The union appealed to the federal government and regulatory authorities to intervene while urging Nigerians to brace up for possible fuel shortages. In other news, former spokesperson of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council, Kenneth Okonkwo, has alleged that the People's Democratic Party has effectively zoned its 2027 presidential ticket to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Wike. Speaking on Channels Television's breakfast show on Friday, Okonkwo claimed Wike has consistently imposed his will on the PDP, often acting against the party's collective interests. He cited the controversy over the PDP's national secretary as an example, recalling that while the Southeast preferred Udo Okoye, Wike insisted on Samuel Anyanwu, who eventually emerged. According to Okonkwo, the Supreme Court judgment that affirmed Anyanwu's position was not an endorsement of Wike's influence, but a recognition of political parties' rights to choose their own leaders. He further accused Wike of anti-party activities, pointing to his open support for candidates outside the PDP. Okonkwo claimed that under Wike's leadership, the PDP has already aligned itself with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ahead of the 2027 polls. Now, foreign news. United Kingdom's Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner has resigned following revelations she underpaid £40,000 in stamp duty on a property purchase. Rayner, who also doubled as Housing Secretary and Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, confirmed her resignation in a letter released Friday. She admitted she failed to meet the standards expected of ministers, despite insisting she acted in good faith. The Labour MP for Ashton, under Lane, had bought an £800,000 flat in Hove, East Sussex, declaring it as her main residence instead of a second home, which significantly reduced her tax liability. Earlier this week, Rayner referred herself to the government's independent ethics advisor. The advisor's report concluded she acted honestly but failed to heed legal advice at the time of the transaction. In her statement, Rayner said she took full responsibility for the error, expressing deep regret for not seeking specialist tax advice. She added that the controversy had also taken a toll on her family. Angela Rayner has served as Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary since Labour came to power in 2024. That concludes the news at 4 on Leadership TV. For more, log in to www.leadership.ng. Thanks for joining us.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.